The rain had been falling since dawn, washing the dust from the old highway that cut through the edge of Granite Creek. The town was small, 2 diners, 1 gas station, and a tired row of shops that once buzzed with life but now sat silent, as though waiting for something to happen. The rumbling arrived first. A deep, thunderous vibration rolled across the street as a formation of heavy motorcycles glided into town. Chrome glinted beneath the fading sun. Leather jackets soaked in rainwater creaked with every movement. The town's residents stepped away from windows, whispering about the visitors. The Hells Angels were passing through. At the front of the pack rode Ryder Kane, a man with lines on his face like scars carved by stories no one dared to ask about. His eyes were the kind of blue that usually belonged to calmer men, but something softer hid beneath the rough exterior. He wasn't here for trouble. He wasn't here for anyone. He was only trying to keep moving before the memories caught up to him. They stopped at Maple Diner, the only place with warm lights still glowing. As the engines died, the world went strangely quiet, like the rain itself was holding its breath. Inside, everything looked normal. A few families eating, a couple of truckers at the counter, and a young waitress serving with more patience than the job deserved. Ryder stepped in first, water dripping from his jacket. What he didn't expect was the moment, subtle, almost invisible, that would change the entire town. At one of the corner booths sat a boy, 8, maybe 9, small, thin, with a bruise half hidden under the sleeve of a faded hoodie. His eyes flicked up, nervous, scanning the room, but suddenly froze when they landed on Ryder. Then it happened. The boy lifted one hand casually, pretending to scratch his neck, and curled 3 fingers against his palm, leaving the thumb tucked under the other fingers. Ryder blinked. He knew that sign. Everyone in the biker world did now. It had spread through schools, social media, and survival training videos. A silent plea for help. The boy's other hand trembled under the table where Ryder could see another bruise, purple, fresh. The man sitting across from the boy, a thick-shouldered, mean-eyed stranger, was chewing food aggressively. He didn't look like a father. He looked like a storm waiting to burst. He slammed his beer down and snapped at the boy for dropping his fork. Ryder felt his jaw tighten. He walked to the counter, ordered coffee, and pretended not to look. But his brothers noticed. 15 men in patched vests, exchanging quiet signals Ryder had taught them years ago. Something was wrong. The man at the booth kept glancing at the boy like he was watching property, not a child. The waitress saw something too, the way her eyes lingered on the bruises, the way she bit her lip before forcing herself to walk away. Ryder stepped closer. "Kid," the man growled at the boy, "if you embarrass me again, you'll regret it when we get home." The boy swallowed hard. Ryder watched. He didn't interfere, not yet. But when the boy's eyes drifted toward him again, his hand formed the sign one more time, smaller this time, hidden between his leg and the table. "Help me." Ryder felt his pulse thud in his ears. Something old and familiar rose inside him, rage, but also something he hadn't felt in years, purpose. He nodded once, barely noticeable. But the boy saw it, and relief washed over him like a breath he'd been holding for years. The man across the table finally noticed Ryder staring. "What you looking at?" he barked. Ryder didn't blink. "Just a kid who doesn't seem safe." The diner air thickened instantly. The man stood up, sneering. "This is my nephew. He's fine. Mind your own business." "Sure," Ryder replied. "Then why's he asking for help?" That did it. The man lunged across the aisle, but 3 bikers were already moving. One stepped between them, another blocked the man's arm. A third guided the boy gently out of the booth. The diner erupted into chaos, people screaming, chairs scraping, but Ryder didn't raise his fists. He simply stepped forward until he stood an inch from the man. "You lay another hand on him," Ryder growled, "and you'll pray the police get to you before I do." The man smirked, but fear flickered behind his eyes. "You don't know who you're messing with," the man hissed. Ryder's expression didn't change. I could say the same. And outside, the roar of 15 Harleys shook the diner windows like thunder answering his voice. The man's bravado evaporated instantly. Because when the Hells Angels stood together, there was no force like them. Ryder turned to the boy, kneeling down slowly so he wouldn't feel threatened. "What's your name, kid?" "Eli," he whispered. "Eli," Ryder said gently, "you did the right thing. You're safe now, I promise." The boy trembled, and for the first time tears slipped down his face. But the moment was far from over. Two sheriff's deputies barged through the door, hands on their weapons. "What's going on here?" One demanded. The man pointed accusingly at the bikers. "They're kidnapping my nephew, arrest them!" Ryder stood calmly. "Ask the boy." All eyes turned to Eli. He looked at the officers, then at the man. His voice barely rose above a whisper. "He's not my uncle." Everything froze. Even the rain seemed to stop falling. "He took me." The boy's small body shook. "Please, don't let him take me again." The deputies stared at him, at the bruises, at the terror in his voice. And suddenly the entire diner's perception shifted. The Hells Angels weren't the threat here. They were the only ones who had listened. The deputies separated everyone and took statements, but tension hung like smoke. The man was handcuffed and shoved against the cruiser, cursing and shouting too loudly, more desperate than confident. Ryder ignored him. His focus was on Eli, wrapped in a dry jacket borrowed from one of the bikers. The boy sat quietly beside him on the bench outside the diner. Every few seconds, he jolted at sudden sounds, like a dog conditioned to expect pain. "Eli," Ryder said carefully, "I need to ask you something. You said he took you. From where?" The boy hesitated, then whispered, "From my house. 2 days ago. My mom told him to go away, so—" "He hit her. I ran and hid, but he found me. He said if I screamed, he'd—" His voice cracked. "He'd hurt her worse." Ryder felt his hands curl into fists. Images flashed in his mind, his own childhood, the bruises he had once hidden, the nights he'd prayed for someone, anyone, to notice. "And your mom?" Ryder asked. "Is she alive? I don't know." That answer dug into Ryder's chest like a blade. A deputy approached. "We've radioed surrounding counties. The mother hasn't been found yet, but we're sending search teams." Ryder nodded, but sensed hesitation in the deputy's posture. "What aren't you saying?" Ryder asked sharply. The deputy sighed. "Look, we appreciate you helping the kid, but you and your group need to stay out of this now. It's a police matter." Ryder stared at him. "You short on manpower? That's not— You searching the woods tonight? Well, you got a helicopter? We're requesting one. When will it actually get here?" The deputy's silence was answer enough. Ryder stood, towering over him. "We're not interfering. We're helping. Big difference." Before the deputy could argue, the other officer approached with an update. "We found tire tracks outside the kid's home. Looks like the suspect returned there before he came to town. Might still have someone held somewhere nearby." Eli's breath hitched. Ryder crouched again. "Kid, do you remember anything else? Anything he said?" Eli nodded slowly. He said if anyone came looking, he'd go to the old cabins, the ones near the river." The deputies looked at each other. "That area's huge," one muttered. "Would take hours to cover." Ryder just turned toward his brothers. "You heard him." The bikers nodded, engines already rumbling before anyone officially gave permission. The deputies hurried after them. "Hey, you can't just take off. We need to coordinate." Ryder swung a leg over his bike. "Then keep up." The convoy of roaring engines burst down the old highway, spraying water from the puddles. Eli sat behind Ryder, arms wrapped around his vest, gripping as if holding on to life itself. Ryder slowed the bike slightly. "You okay back there?" "I trust you," Eli answered quietly. For Ryder, those 3 words hit harder than any blow. They reached the forest entrance within minutes. The rain turned into mist, catching headlight beams. The old cabins, abandoned decades ago, were scattered across several acres, many half-collapsed, perfect place for someone to hide someone else. The bikers split into teams, each taking a different trail. Ryder went toward the river, Eli still with him until one deputy pulled up beside them. "Let me take the kid," the deputy said. Eli's hands tightened instantly. "No," Ryder shook his head. "He stays with me. That's not protocol." Ryder glared. "Neither is leaving a kidnapped boy with the man who took him." The deputy didn't argue after that. They pushed deeper into the woods. Eli lifted his shaking arm and pointed ahead. "That way." "How do you know?" Ryder asked. "I remember him talking on the phone. He said, 'I'll bring her to the river house.'" Ryder pushed the bike faster. Minutes later, they spotted it. An old cabin with boards hanging like shattered teeth from the roof. No lights, no noise, but something about it felt wrong. Ryder cut the engine. "Stay behind me," he whispered to Eli. The bikers surrounded the cabin like silent ghosts, weapons ready. Not guns, but heavy flashlights, batons, anything to defend without killing. Ryder moved first, hand out motioning everyone to stay quiet. Then, a faint sound. A whimper. Coming from inside. Eli gasped. "Mom!" Ryder didn't hesitate. He ran to the door, shoulder slammed into the wood, but it held. 2 more bikers joined him, and on the 3rd hit, the door cracked open. Inside smelled of mold and cold. A woman lay tied to a chair, bruised, bleeding, barely conscious. Eli sprinted forward, collapsing into her lap, sobbing into her chest. Ryder started cutting the rope. "It's okay," he murmured. "You're safe now." But as the last rope snapped, a gun clicked behind him. The man stepped from the shadows, wild-eyed, furious, holding a pistol aimed at Ryder's head. "I told you she was mine," the man growled. "And the boy, too." Eli froze. His mother cried out weakly. The bikers burst in, but one wrong move and the man would fire. Ryder didn't move. His heartbeat slowed. His breath deepened. "You're outnumbered," Ryder said quietly. "I don't care. You won't walk out of here." "Doesn't matter. Then what does?" The man's voice cracked. "Control." Ryder's eyes narrowed. "You lost that the second he asked for help. And in that split second of distraction, Eli did something no one expected. He hurled himself at Ryder's back, pushing him sideways. The gun fired. The bullet smashed into a wooden beam. Bikers tackled the man instantly, the gun flying from his hand as fists and fury pinned him to the ground. The danger was over. The boy had saved Ryder's life. Ryder turned to him, stunned. "Why'd you do that, kid?" Eli trembled, crying harder. "Because you saved mine." The aftermath unfolded in a blur of sirens, statements, and stunned silence. The man was arrested, charged with kidnapping, assault, and multiple other crimes that piled into a mountain of years he'd never escape. Eli's mother was rushed to the hospital, Ryder riding beside the ambulance all the way, refusing to let Eli out of his sight. News spread fast. Townsfolk who had once peered nervously from behind curtains now watched the bikers with awe, not fear, not judgment. Respect. Because they had seen the truth. The Hells Angels hadn't come to cause trouble. They had come to save a child. Days passed. Eli's mom recovered slowly, with bruises fading but trauma lingering like a shadow. Social workers, police, counselors, everyone came and went. But Eli always waited for one person, Ryder. Every morning, he returned to the hospital with a small bag of snacks, comic books, and an old leather jacket patched at the elbows. "For when you're stronger," Ryder said, placing it gently on Eli's lap. "Every biker needs one." Eli hugged him so tightly he couldn't speak for a moment. When they were finally released, the sheriff approached Ryder. "You know," he said quietly, "people talk about your club. They see the leather, the bikes, the tattoos, and they think one thing." Ryder raised a brow. "And now they know better." Ryder nodded once. He wasn't one for praise. Eli and his mother stepped out of the hospital. They stood together, arms linked, still fragile but free. The boy walked toward Ryder, eyes shining. "Will I see you again?" he asked. Ryder knelt. "Kid, you need anything, anything at all. You signal, you call, you shout. Doesn't matter where I am. I'll come." Eli threw his arms around his neck. Ryder froze, then hugged him back with a gentleness no one would expect from a man like him. When Ryder finally stood, Eli's mother stepped forward. "I don't know how to thank you," she whispered. "You saved my son. You saved me." Ryder shook his head. "He saved himself. He was brave enough to ask for help. That takes more courage than anything I did." The convoy of Harleys roared to life again, engines echoing like thunder, promising protection rather than danger. Ryder swung onto his bike. "Take care of him," he said softly. "I will," she replied. Eli waved both hands as the bikers rolled out of the parking lot. Ryder looked back one last time, raising 2 fingers in a silent salute. Eli returned it. The wind carried them down the road toward the horizon, toward whatever lay next. But something had changed deep inside Ryder. After years of drifting, unsure of his purpose, he had found something that mattered. And somewhere in a small town called Granite Creek, a little boy who once signaled for help now knew that the world wasn't as dark as it seemed, because a stranger on a motorcycle one people feared, had been his light. And that, more than anything else, shocked everyone. The Hell's Angels were not what the world thought. Not today, not to Eli, not ever again.